Doing the research on the individual is super critical. Research and review different portfolios. Protect yourself after you've done your research. Asking for a test edit. Right people will do the right thing. Finding the right person is incredibly difficult, especially if you're a person that just does everything yourself. When I was traveling this past weekend, I was headed to Washington, D.C. to go to a wedding. A big thing that I needed to do was get my work done, but I didn't have the time to sit there on a computer to complete the work. So hiring somebody is essential. You don't want to come back from your vacation. You don't want to come back from your trip and not have any of the work done. You also don't want to spend more time trying to fix the problems that somebody has dealt or they've done while you were absent in that time. So hiring the right people is completely crucial and critical for the growth of whatever you have going on. As I was trying to find somebody, I ultimately filmed a whole bunch of different raw videos, and the raw videos that I needed a video editor to come in, cut up the video to still match the aesthetic of what I do, still match my branding, so that way all of the work that I do with the same level of expertise, that is what I need somebody to come in there and accomplish for me. There have been instances where even if you're not out of town, you just may not have an unlimited budget. You can't afford to hire the wrong person, because spending your time and your money on something that you want somebody to help you out with can really be more detrimental if you don't get the right people to do what you need to do. In this video, I'm going to talk about really getting the right team, how you can assemble the Avengers and get to winning together. The first point I want to say is research and review different portfolios. When you look at different websites to hire people, whether it's a professional website, whether it is a freelance website, contractors, doing the research on the individuals for the job scope that you're looking for is super critical. When you are looking at somebody's portfolio, if I'm editing a video, I knew that I had a video that's about 13 minutes long of raw, unedited content. Hiring somebody on the spot, not seeing their work is pretty impractical and would definitely cause a lot of harm for plentiful amount of reasons. So researching and finding somebody if they're doing something similar to what you have going. When I was originally creating my first set of videos, I didn't have any type of reference points. So I didn't have the idea of what I wanted this to look like as if I did it myself. I was hiring somebody who has an expertise in this. So looking at their portfolio would be something that's very crucial and critical for hiring that right person. With that being said, if you don't have the right content as something to guide them through, look over their portfolio, see do they have the skills from their videos. Are their videos edited the same way that you want those videos edited? When I was looking at a lot of portfolios, I thought that a lot of them had sound effects that were super, right, like explosions in the background, and then just like cybersecurity backgrounds, and then it was a whole lot going on. And I felt like for the video content that I create, I just want it to be more natural. I want it to be similar to a vlog or a diary, as if you're talking to yourself, or a journal entry. I didn't want it to be this whole thing where now it's all these like super special effects and it takes away from the actual value that I'm providing with that. So I looked at it and I actually found very few people who could even just do the job to begin with based on that requirement. If I were to eliminate those editors who had that in their background, doesn't mean that just because they had something that's not ideal to what you want doesn't mean they can't deliver that, right? So the videos in their portfolio, it could have been an indication of what the market wants. Maybe a lot of people want to create videos with a whole bunch of different special effects, sound effects, things that I don't necessarily feel as if I need in my videos to succeed, but other people who have hired them and paid them for their jobs may have had that, and that represents the portfolio that somebody comes in. So it's weeding through it. If somebody doesn't necessarily deliver within the portfolio, you can either ask them and send them different points of reference and say that these are the accounts or these are videos that I have a lot of different inspiration from that I want to have for my videos. Is this something that you can complete, right? So there are quite a bit of creators who I really, really love their content, that if you're editing a video and maybe you want something that's more of a conversational input, if you look at somebody like Bria Jones, she has really great content and it feels like a sit-down conversation with her. That is exactly a point that you can be like, oh, these are her videos. Can you take inspiration from it? Without stealing, right? Like you don't take the exact blueprint or framework that somebody else has created and say that this is now my own, but you may have different pieces of inspiration that you like. Somebody like Ori does fitness and she has a lot of vlog style videos where she'll run, but but then on her Instagram page, her content is a little bit different because it talks more about nutrition and wellness and stuff. So there may be pieces that you have aspirations from, or there might be things that are like pieces of inspiration that you can now send to that video editor and say, hey, this is the type of content that I'm trying to emulate, or this is something that I'm inspired by. Can you do this? Asking them if they can do that just from a sense of competency is completely reasonable, right? Like being on the same page and noting the amount of communication that happens when you ask these questions. I've had instances where I found a really great editor, super excited to work with me, that's super excited to just continue to do what they're doing, but they weren't really receptive in terms of editing a certain style. So they had a portfolio. The portfolio didn't match the type of content that I create. And I said, can you edit it this way? And they're like, I don't edit that way. And it's not that they couldn't, they just did not do that. They don't do that. It's similar to a tattoo artist. If a tattoo artist doesn't want to do your tattoo versus a tattoo artist that can do your tattoo and chooses not to do it, or they just don't have that level of competence that comes behind it. Another way that you want to protect yourself after you've done your research for reviewing those portfolios is asking for a test edit. I'm really not a big proponent of trying to get people to just do test assignments for you. There are ways that I use this as kind of like a last resort, or a just intermediary form of communication to make sure I'm on the same page. And it can go different ways, so that way you're not wasting somebody's time, and that's asking for a test edit of that video. That video is 13 minutes long. From that, if one video editor costs X amount of money and the other one costs Y, you're not just supposed to go with the cheaper option. The more expensive person may be better, and you might invest that time in it, but you might find somebody that is less expensive, has the same type of output. They may just not have projects at the same time. You don't know what's going on. So when you ask for the test edit, the two different styles that you're asking for is, one could be a test edit, and of the test edit, if we're looking at the video that's 13 minutes long, having a test edit that is 1 minute long is not the full scope of work of what you need to look for, but it could go one of two ways. You can ask for a test edit to see if they are aligned with the type of video editing that you want, and that's the same scope that you're trying to go for. The other aspect of it is to pay them for that test edit, right? So if you have a couple videographers or editors that you're trying to choose from, this is something that you should think about, especially from that sense of, it's better to hire two different video editors who can edit two different videos at 1 minute long, as opposed to paying somebody to edit a 13-minute long video. And then if you find out that both of them aren't wrong, I think that taking that like slight risk of paying them for that test edit, if they don't have something that matches that alignment of the video that you're creating, is completely fine, right? If you're working on a time crunch, take it even a step further than that. Say that you just want a 30-second edit, and then from that you can either decide if they don't have it on their portfolio, you just want something quick as a reference point to understand like the type of edits that they have, that's important. But noting the communication style that you have, right? So there's one editor that I was working with that I realized they would make changes, but there's no conversation about why the changes were being implemented. If there's a share button at the end of my video, it may have been looking like it was taken off Microsoft Paint and it was kind of outdated. I was like, I don't like this. Can you replace the share button? Instead of it being, why don't you like it? And you're not supposed to fish for people to try to come to you to ask these types of questions. It was just more so they completed it and didn't understand the rationale between it. So if I were to create another video, the likelihood of them either not having a share button or keeping that share button in is extremely high. So being able to communicate with somebody is that they're a really great video editor. I just felt as if I had to do a lot of micromanaging to get this done, instead of trying to be in a space where I'm saying, hey, you understand why I don't like this photo. I think the photo looks a little janky. Maybe we don't add that into the video. And they go, okay, now when I'm editing the videos, he thinks this is janky. I don't necessarily think it's janky, but for the videos I'm editing for this client, I'm not going to include that. That is something that when you have proper communication and you're hiring for something in the future, that is going to be completely important. So even though I really like the video editor, I don't think I work with them again because that communication line was very difficult. I really think about getting ready to make mistakes, right? When somebody comes in and edits the video, there may be something small, right? If something in the video that I got back from one of the editors was really great, but they spelled my name wrong, right? And that's huge, right? If you're trying to talk about the credibility of somebody and they don't even have their name spelled correctly in a video that they're editing, that's already a problem. And then now, if you were on a time crunch where you have to get a video up within a day or 2 days, and that video is not completed, you're kind of in a bad position, right? So be able to make mistakes and be ready to make mistakes if mistakes come up, because they will come up. If your goal is to finish a video, today's Monday, and you want to have that video completed by Friday, don't wait until Friday to finish your edits to post that video up. Think of, maybe I need to get that video edited by Wednesday, the final form of that video edited by Wednesday, to schedule it by Thursday, to post it by Friday. That way, if anything happens, if you know on Wednesday, if you know on Tuesday you're not getting that video in its first format, to edit it on Wednesday, you got to figure some things out, because you might need to have enough time to hire somebody else to do that. Right? People don't have unlimited budgets, and I think that a lot of times it's just everybody is trying to make a living, right? With that being said, you want to make sure people are working and can work in a collaborative effort, because when the synergy is there from hiring the right people, the overall return is worth more than what you can even imagine, right? Having somebody in your corner that can go in and edit a video. I found out from my video editor that zooming in could be a little bit form of more engaging, but that's not something I was thinking about when I was creating the content. I was just focused on the content itself. That is the type of synergy and connection where I'm like, oh, that's a cool effect. And now we're able to look at that. We looked at things that are completely different than editing the video, which would be the thumbnails on the video. That relationship that you have is that I know that this video that's coming up, I can hire them to help me edit this video, because we are on that constant rapport of constantly like churning out the videos. They got in a fast timeline. They work really well. It's engaging. I enjoy working with them. That is having the right mindset to continue to collaborate and be able to work together. And then as far as budgeting, I think budgeting is a little bit tricky, and there's not necessarily a right or wrong way to go about doing it. I think that when you're thinking of the value of a project that you're having, there is a payment threshold to complete the scope of work that people would say is like fair compensation. There's also a market demand for a specific job task that you have, right? An engineer for a small company may not necessarily make the same as an engineer for like a world event that's sponsored by the government or that's contracted by the government, because of maybe the amount of money that somebody has access to, the safety that comes into concern, and just that overall like scope of work, right? The scope of work may be the exact same. If that engineer is working on the Olympics versus that engineer is working on just like an event that's local to the neighborhood, still needs to make sure that that engineer is working properly. However, if you're looking at something like a world event like the Olympics, because of an influx of people, that's a different nuance. It's considerably more important, and it could considerably require a higher budget that comes in mind. I think that the dilemma when it comes down to pricing is that sometimes people price gouge, where people are always constantly saying, raise your prices, raise your prices, raise your prices, but the work doesn't match. The work has to match to be able to do that, in my personal opinion. So I won't say that there is a right or wrong way to charge your clients, and I won't say that there's a right or wrong way to budget when it comes down to people, but being honest about how much money you have for a project, especially if it's a new project that comes up. If I'm hiring a video editor and I've never edited a video before, I might not know exactly where that threshold is, but you can tell them like, hey, this is the scope of work, like how much do you charge for that? And then you can also find out is like through other people, you're not putting a bid in to find out just like average cost rates, but you can start to grasp an idea saying that if somebody charges you $100 for a project, and then that same project somebody else next to you charges $1,000 for that project, is one person overcharging or is one person undercharging? Could it be based on location? There are different points that you can have to make a considerable effort to figure out where we are as far as like pricing and stuff that goes. The more you start to get acclimated to it, you can also ask your friends, right? Your peers, and you can say that here's a video that this person has. If you were to edit it, how much would something like this cost? Without wasting that person's time, right? Sometimes you might find the perfect person that's right for you, but you cannot afford them. Get over it, right? There have been countless times when there are people that I think are really fantastic, but I can't work with them because I can't afford them. And that's completely fine. But what I won't do is try to lowball people in a sense that's just saying that's like, oh man, your work is not worth X, Y, and Z. It's just not worth it to me, or it's not something that I can afford. So I got to get over that, right? I might have a video editor. He's the best person for that job, thousands and thousands of dollars, but it might be like a school project, right? What if I'm working on something that's like, we don't even care about like the actual work that comes with that? You don't need to hire the craziest person. You don't need to hire Beyonce to pack out a coffee shop. You don't. Right, there's other people that can get that job done. So getting the job done versus what is the quality and scope and budget that you have on it. When you have the right people will do the right things to help you be the best version of yourself. And when you have that relationship, that is going to get you to where you want to be. If you like this type of video or have any type of suggestions or any other videos you'd like to see, make sure you subscribe, comment below, tell me your favorite parts. Really looking forward to hearing from you, and you let me know who you think or how your progress is with getting the right people together and working on the project of your dreams. Thank you again for tuning in, and we're going to talk soon.